Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel, and today we're doing our Premier League predictions before the start of the season. I think it's going to be a really interesting video, bit of a controversial one. If you disagree with me, fair enough, leave your comments down in the description with who you think is going to finish where, and all of that kind of stuff. Please leave a link to the BBC predictions that I am using in order to just visualise where I've predicted everyone. So I'll leave a link down to that so you can post yours and you can leave a link to your one and then I can see yours. That'd be great if you want to do that. So let's get into the team. We're going to start with 20th and go all the way up to 1st because I think that's the best way to look at it. Yeah, those are relegation places sorted. They're the main controversial ones that people usually have a problem with. And I think they might have a little bit of a problem with mine, certainly certain teams, but you know, we're going to persist with it anyway and see how we go. Sorry if I feel ill, by the way. I'm actually quite ill right now. It's not COVID. I've done loads of tests. I'm negative. It's fine. But yeah, I needed to get this out before the weekend and I couldn't wait for this to pass. So this is going to have to come while I don't feel very well. I probably sound quite groggy. I have a sore throat. I have a bunged up nose. I have a stomach ache, you know, all of that jazz. Headache. Yeah, I just feel kind of crappy. But yeah, let's get straight into it with 20th place. So the team that I think is going to finish bottom of the league has done some business so far, but I just don't think it's the kind of business that's going to keep them in the league, and certainly not when they've lost a huge player from last season and the season before who was really important to their side. And they've just come up from the league below. I don't think they've invested in the right places. I really like their manager, but the team that's going to finish bottom of the league for me is Norwich City. I don't think they're going to finish as low down as they did last time. I think it'll be a fight right up until the last few games of the season. I certainly think there's about 5 teams that could go down this year, and all 5 of them are going to be in my bottom 5. So you'll see who that is, and then I think there'll be a little bit of a gap to the next set of teams, the mid-table teams, and then there's a little bit of a gap to the European teams, and then I think first place will have a gap on everyone else this season. That's how I think it's going to go. But let's just look at what Norwich have done so far. They've brought in Rashika and Josh Sargent from Werder Bremen, who got relegated last season. They're very good players. Rashika's a really good Kosovoan international. Yeah, and I think he's a good player, but I just don't think they've replaced Emi Buendia, who's gone to Aston Villa. I think he's a fantastic player. They've got in Billy Gilmore, who was very good for Chelsea last season in places, and while he was out on loan as well, I think he's going to be important for them. He's great in the Euros for Scotland, but I just don't think overall they've done enough, and I think with them losing Emi Buendia, they've lost a big part of the team, and there is news as well that they may lose Todd Cantwell as well to Aston Villa, and then I just don't think they've got anything at all. So they might do okay, but I'm going to go with Norwich down in 20th place. Now, here's the controversial one that I think a lot of people will accuse me of bias for. I am a Portsmouth fan, as you can see by the shirt I'm wearing, and the stuff kind of blurred in the background is a Portsmouth shirt and a Portsmouth badge made of wood. But this decision to put Southampton in 19th place is founded with a certain amount of thought process here. It's not just me being like, oh, Southampton are going to finish in the relegation zone, because every other season they've been in the Premier League, I've said they wouldn't. So this is just the first one you're seeing on YouTube. Every year I usually back them to finish, you know, 13th, 14th, that kind of thing. There was one season that I thought they'd finish in the top 10. Yeah, I think this is the season where they're going to go down, and there's a number of reasons why, and the main reason, and the most important reason, is they've lost their goal scorer, Danny Ings. Danny Ings has gone to Aston Villa, strengthening a rival in the division, and also just someone who can just get you 20, 25, maybe even 30 goals in the season if he stays fit for the whole year. He's certainly on that kind of trajectory usually. He looks like he's going to do well, and then he just kind of falters off a little bit, or he gets injured. Last season I felt like he gave up on Southampton. I think he wanted to leave. He wanted to leave. I feel like he wanted to leave, and he just kind of tailed off towards the end, didn't really put as much effort in. He didn't look the same guy on the pitch. I'm surprised he got picked as much, because I probably would have been like, you know what, you're not trying here, get out the team right now. But he was too important to them and could do what he wanted, unfortunately. I don't really want you to go down yet. Pompey haven't gotten to the Championship yet and established themselves. So if we did meet in that league right now, you'd slap us up, and that'd annoy me. So I don't want you to go relegated just yet. Wait till we're an established Championship club in the next 5-10 years or so. Then go down, and then, you know, we can we can battle it out for who's the best team on the South Coast then, and it's not Brighton. There's a bit harsh on Brighton, who I have predicted nowhere near the relegation zone, so we'll get to them in just a little bit. But yeah, Southampton unfortunately finishing in, unfortunately for them, for me, you know, it's kind of funny, but they're finishing in 19th place, and I just don't see it this year. I don't think they've brought in enough players. I don't think they've brought in some good transfers. Armstrong from Blackburn is a good player, but he's a good championship player at the moment. If he can kick on, then maybe they'll escape the drop. But they're certainly in that 5-team name that I mentioned. They're certainly in the discussion for relegation this season, even if they don't go down. I've got them in 19th. I think they're going to finish in one of the bottom 3 places, certainly. Right, now, 18th place, the final relegation place, and it's a team that I really like, actually. I'm a big fan of how they run their club. I'm a big fan of their kits, usually. I'm a big fan of, like, the cycling GK in goal. That might have revealed to you who is going to be in this position, and it's going to be Watford. And the reason why I think they're going to be in it is because I just don't think they've really invested enough in the team this season like they want to stay up. So far, they've spent about £15 million. They bought Imran Louza, Emmanuel Dennis and Matty Pollock from Grimsby Town for £270,000, £3.6 million for Dennis and £9 million for Louza, or Loser, or whatever you want to call him. I think they're good signings, but I don't think they're the kind of players that keep you in the division. Where they have done well is they've signed some good free agents. They've signed Danny Rose from Tottenham, good left back. He'll start for them, I imagine. Joshua King, second striker, done it in the Premier League a couple of times with Bournemouth and Everton. Didn't really get on too well at Everton, but they've let him go on a free, and he has gone to Watford. I think that's a decent signing for them in centre-forward position, as well as Ashley Fletcher who from Middlesbrough, who, again, I'd say is probably a championship side. I feel like they've built a really good team to get relegated on. Do you know what I mean? They've kind of... They're going to get relegated, and then they'll have a really good team to go and win the league next season. And I don't know if that's what their plan is, to kind of absorb that relegation parachute payment money and then get back up and then spend the money. Maybe that's their issue. Maybe that's their idea. I don't really know. You know, I think they've built an okay team. I just don't think it's enough to stay up, and they're certainly going to be in those bottom 5 places, and I'm going to put them in 18th. Now, a team who are just going to stay out of the relegation zone, in my opinion, but it will maybe be on goal difference on the last day of the season, on that kind of thing, and that team is going to be Burnley. They've not backed Sean Dyche in any of the last 3 seasons or so, ever since they got Europe and then kind of fell away, and since then he's not been backed. They don't back him every year, but he still kind of does the job and ends up finishing well away from the relegation zone. They were the closest they'd come for a while last season, and I just think this year might be their year to go down, but that Sean Dyche factor is going to keep them in the league, I think, is how I'm predicting it. What could happen is they could finish rock bottom, and the teams that I predicted to get relegated could all finish one place up. That's a certain possibility. They've not really bought anyone either. They've bought Nathan Collins from Stoke City for £12 million. It's a lot of money for a championship defender. He's 20, you know, he's Irish, you know, he's going to improve, but out the door, the other way, is Ben Gibson, who is an established Premier League centre-back. He's 28 years old, he's done well for them, and he's going to Norwich. So he's strengthening one of their relegation rivals. I think it's a really silly move from Burnley, from my perspective. Yeah, and I think Wayne Hennessy, who's coming as well, he's barely played any Premier League football in the last year and a half. You know, I don't think that's a great signing for them either, as understudy to Nick Pope, who I don't know if he's going to miss the start of the season. I imagine if he does, then this will be a bit of a problem for Burnley, because they won't have that solid best goalkeeper, one of the best goalkeepers in the league, certainly, behind the sticks. In between the sticks, not behind the sticks. Behind the sticks would be useless. If you just stood behind the goal and went, oh, look at me, I'm a good goalkeeper, then you wouldn't you concede a lot of goals. I mean, they've brought in a load of... They loaned out 3 goalkeepers last season, and they've come back. So they've got a load of goalkeepers now. They've got Lucas Jensen, Bailey Peacock-Farrell, Wayne Hennessy, and, of course, Nick Pope. But I just don't see it. And there's also a chance that they might lose Dwight McNeil as well. And if they do, I really don't see them staying up at all. I think he's a big influence on that team and a big player for them. And if they lose him, then they will finish in the bottom 3, certainly. But I'm going to say one place above. I'm going to say 17th. Burnley in 17th. Now, next up is going to be the final of the 5, which I think are the relegation candidate teams for this season. And the team I'm going to include in that, but equally, I think could be out of it if they invest in the right places for the rest of this window. So far, they've invested okay, and they've not lost anyone, which is very important. They've not lost anyone decent yet. Hopefully, they will continue that trend. And I'm going to say that Brentford are going to finish in 16th position. They brought on Christopher Ajer from Celtic. Excellent established centre-back for Norway, international player. Played in Europe before, you know, that kind of quality you need in that position, and 14 million is a good price for him, I think. And I think that's a decent signing. They've also signed Onyeka from Midtjylland. They have a really good relationship with Midtjylland, where they loan players to them and then buy their youthy up-and-coming players, which is a good way to do things if you're looking at that kind of team that are going to get into Europe and have the youth system coming through. I think that's a good way of looking at it. And they've also brought in Jon Wissa from Lorient in Ligue 1. I think they're going to be fine, and I think they will continue to invest. And that's where I see the difference between Norwich and Watford this season, is they look like teams who are just happy to consolidate, take the 1 year in the Premier League, go back down, take the parachute payments, that kind of thing. They don't look like they've invested to stay up. Brentford, however, are on an upwards trajectory. They've got their new stadium, they look like a good team, they're building for the future. I think they will spend more money in this window. I think they will probably buy a couple more players in that will be decent signings for them and the type of players that keep them in the league. And importantly, really importantly, they've not really lost anyone yet. And I don't think they're going to either. It looks like they're going to try and bring in Vagnoman from Hamburg, which is a good signing, and Kajust from Midtjylland as well. Both will be excellent signings for them, the kind of players that they need in the team. I think they're going to be okay this season. I could even see them pushing higher up if they do invest in the right couple of players. That remains to be seen. For now, I'm going to conservatively say 16th, but if they don't do anything, they will be in that relegation fight. I just don't think they'll be in the relegation places. So, Brentford, I hope you stay up, and also I think you will. So, weird one, this one. I've considered teams that haven't really done much to be the kind of teams that are going down. However, the team that I'm going to predict to finish outside of the relegation battle hasn't done anything in this window yet, and I imagine they won't unless they sign one particular player. There's only one player that I think they'll sign, and we'll talk about that in just a second. But the team I think are going to finish in 15th place and clear probably by a few points of the relegation zone this season is Newcastle United. Now, last year they had a difficult year. Sam Maxima had his poor COVID record where he got COVID, then he had long COVID, and then he was injured, and it made the team look very different, and they got very scrappy. They started to throw players forward, and it made some of the games very fun to watch. But at the same time, from a Newcastle perspective, you don't really look you look a bit clueless, I think, when you do that kind of thing. So this season, I think they're going to have a bit more cut out for them. And I think if all their players can stay fit, they have a good team on paper. With Sam Maxima, with Joe Linton, with Callum Wilson, with Almiron, all of those players, with Jonjo Shelvey, all of those players are capable of playing Premier League football and capable of keeping them in this division. So as long as they stay fit, should be fine. I think what they do need is bring in one more player, and I think that player is going to be Joe Willock. It looks like they're going to sign him from Arsenal for cut price deal of about 15 to 20 million pounds as well, which is madness. A great deal for them. Poor deal for Arsenal. I think, if anything, I actually think that's the type of player Arsenal could do with this season. You know, a young, spunky central attacking midfielder who's quite happy to charge forward and unleash something. He's a bit of a baller, if I'm honest. He ended the season really well. I thought he was unlucky not to get in the England's provisional larger, like 35-man squad or whatever it was. I thought he was unlucky not to get into that. But yeah, Joe Willock's a cracking player, and I think if he goes to Newcastle, he'll have many happy years there. Certainly, if Mike Ashley then leaves anytime soon and they can start investing in such a big club, a club that deserves to be at the top end of this table, pushing towards those final European places. I think that's where they should be as a club. They could be in the future with the right investment. I hope their investment goes through. Yeah, it's sad to see them in the relegation fight so many seasons, but Steve Bruce has got a good lid on it at the moment. I think Joe Willock's their last signing they need. If they don't sign Joe Willock, then they could struggle otherwise, and certainly if they have an injury crisis again, they will definitely struggle. But yeah, so for now, I'm going to predict them 15th, and I think it's a solid 15th for them. It's a solid 15th for Newcastle this season. Now, on to 14th place, and it is a team that haven't been struggling the last few seasons because they've had a very sensible manager at the helm. He has now retired, and I cannot say as many nice things about Roy Hodgson without mentioning his record for Crystal Palace. He's done fantastically at Crystal Palace. He's established them as an obvious Premier League team every season. Yes, they're probably usually in the lower half. Yes, they probably could surge on if they really wanted to, but they're established now. They're doing well, and I think that's going to continue now. I think Patrick Vieira is an unproven manager. He's got a point to prove. I think I want to see him come out and play a little bit more attacking, you know, a little bit more interesting football. I'd like to see at Palace this season. They've got Zaha, they've got Eze, they've got some exciting players that can get them goals and get them assists. I want to see them do that. They have lost Andros Townsend, which I think is a big loss to them because he's the kind of player that performed in that team. I think is a good signing for Everton. I just don't really see how they're going to kick on further than that. They've brought in Elise from Reading, which is a good signing, back up to Eze or alongside Eze, which would be really nice. That would be good. 9 million for him, bargain. 21 million for Mark Way, the centre-back from Chelsea. That's a big price for someone who's never really played for Chelsea, but he's well sought after. He's been out on loan a few times. I think he's the kind of player that could really solidify them in centre-back, and they've also brought in Joachim Anderson from Lyon, who is, you know, a player with Champions League / Europa League experience and in a top division before. I think that's a great signing at £15 million. Really good signings from them. I think if Vieira can get a couple more players in, he'll probably do pretty well. But I don't see them like suddenly pushing up into the top half. I think it's kind of here, you know, maybe 1 or 2 places below or 1 or 2 places above. I don't think they'll be too caught in to the relegation battle. A few people are saying that they will, but I think they've bought in the right places, and I think they'll finish, you know, mid-table mediocrity. Coming up in 13th place is the team that I said are definitely not the best team on the South Coast, but they will be this season. They are going to finish the best position of any South Coast team this season, in my opinion. 13th place for Brighton and Hove Albion. The reason I'm saying that, despite the fact that they have lost Ben White for £50-odd million, which is a huge loss to them, by the way, I just think they're going to invest that in 2 good centre-backs before the window's done. One player they're looking at is Nathaniel Phillips of Liverpool. He's got game time for Liverpool now. He's an established centre-back, 24 years old, you know, and the fee is looking to be around 8 million. That's a really good price for someone who is actually quite good and has done it before. I think he's only going to get better as well. I think if they can get someone like him in, they're also looking at Hudson Edouard as in a striker position from Celtic. Now that Celtic aren't quite the established title winning every season Europa League, European, you know, dominant team, not that they ever really were, but now that they're not really getting that game in, game out, I think some of their players are going to start to leave, and I think Hudson Edouard is probably one of them because he's someone with a lot of potential that could potentially make it into that French team in the future when players like Benzema, Griezmann like that retire, and he does need to move on away from Scottish football if he wants to do that. And I think Brighton's a good place to start. If you go down to Brighton, you score a load of goals, fair play to you. That's what they need right now, Brighton. If Brighton don't sign a striker, they will struggle again this season because Maupay didn't really have the best of seasons last year. They don't really have anyone who strikes fear into you anymore. And they used to have Glenn Murray, and you used to know that Glenn Murray would score a couple of goals a season against you, regardless of who you were. They don't really have that anymore, and I think they do need to get a striker in, and Edouard's a good choice there. Graham Potter, by the way, is a fantastic manager. I think he's going to take them far if he is allowed to with the right investment. They've got some lovely kits this season. I think Brighton are looking like a really attractive side to go and watch this season, especially if they can bring on that striker. I think they'll spend the money from Ben White really well. 13th place for now, but it easily could just push into the top half if they sign the right players. Wolves now in 12th place, just finishing above a couple of the teams that you might figure would be around them. They've lost their manager in Nuno Espirito Santo, someone who I really respect. He's gone to Tottenham. I think that's a good move for him, actually. And it's probably a good move for Tottenham, who are in a bit of a transitional phase now, especially if they lose Harry Kane. But we'll get on to Tottenham a little bit later. Bruno Lage, whatever his name is. I can't pronounce his name. The Portuguese chap. Has taken over more Portuguese into Wolverhampton Wanderers, who at this point are just Sporting Lisbon in disguise. But yeah, I think they'll do okay this season, and the main reason I think they will do okay is because Raul Jimenez is back. If they can turn him into a player that's playing every week, scoring goals like he used to be before he got his head injury, which was a horrible head injury. It was disgusting to watch. Like, oh, the pain, oh, that sound, oh, it gives me shivers. Don't like thinking about it. But yes, if Raul Jimenez is back with Ruben Neves looking like he's staying as well, I think they're going to be fine. I think they'll finish mid-table. I don't think they'll be too far off pushing higher up, but I equally don't think they'll quite get there. I think if they get into 10th and 9th place, they've done really well and had a really good season. I certainly don't think they'll be pushing for Europe, but I don't think they'll be in the relegation zones either. I think 12th's a pretty good position for Wolves, and I think that's where I'm going to predict them. So, on to 11th place then, and it is a team that looked last season like they were going to transition into a team that were pushing into the European places. They didn't quite get there, and then this season they've had no backing whatsoever. They've lost their manager, they've brought in a new one, and yes, I think the new manager is good, but I think the old one was very, very good. They've lost Ancelotti, they've brought in Rafa Benitez. It is Everton who are going to finish in 11th place this season. Yes, they've got Moise Kean back from PSG on the end of loan. Yes, they've got Andros Townsend. Yes, they've got Damari Gray. They're looking at players like Mikael Damsgaard, perhaps Dwight McNeil from Burnley. Good signings for them if they can get them. But equally, I don't think they're players who are going to kick them into Europe. Maybe Damsgaard. Damsgaard was very good in the Euros. We don't know how he's going to play in the Premier League, and it's not that likely a rumour. You know, it's kind of umming and ahhing. I've not seen any concrete bids from Everton yet, so perhaps it's just one of those throwaway ones. I think it's a tough one. I think it's a really tough one for Everton this season, and I think they're going to fall short, and they're going to end up 11th place. But without being backed this season, they need to be backed next season, potentially losing, you know, Gylfi Sigurdsson as well with a controversial issue, which I'm not going to go into. But that's a £45 million player that they're losing there. It's not great for Everton this season. I think 11th place, and I think they're going to be disappointed with that as well. 10th place this season, and I've put them higher than a lot of people have put them, I think, so far. Is going to be West Ham United. Now, they've got Europe, which means their squad is going to be thinly spread, and they only really had Antonio up front. Haller was injured. I don't know if he's back quite yet. But yeah, I think it's a team that are in a transitional phase that they need to invest now and push for Europe. Yes, COVID means that they're probably not going to, and I think they're going to be one of those teams that look at COVID and say, we're going to err on the side of caution and not invest this season, which I think is a mistake, and I think if they don't buy anyone at all, they're going to risk going backwards here and ending up further down the middle of the table, maybe even being in that relegation fight. Glenn Kamara is someone they're interested in from Rangers, 25-year-old right-back central defensive midfielder, the kind of player they need, to be honest. Looked very good for Finland in the Euros. Rangers were invincible last season. You know, worth getting someone like that in to someone like Everton. I don't think it will cost too much, you know, under £10 million maybe. Areola's a good goalkeeper. I think he'll swap between him and Fabianski maybe. I think Areola will probably end up the main goalkeeper and Fabianski as the understudy, playing in all the cups and things that they're in this season, which is fine. If they don't invest, they're going to have to play the kids in the cup, which, you know, is not great. If you're going into Europe and you have no intention of winning it, then what's really going on there? The good thing is they've not really lost anyone either, so they do have that to fall back on. They've still got Declan Rice, they've still got, you know, most of their team, and I think West Ham are going to finish 10th. Now, 9th place is a team who have invested a bit of money so far in their team, but I just don't think it's enough, and I just don't think they are going to be the team that kicks on and goes further this season. A couple of people I've seen have predicted them to finish in Europe. A couple of people I've seen to even push for Champions League this football. And I personally just don't see it. I think they're going to go back one more place. In 9th place is Arsenal. The main reason for this is I do think a couple of the teams around them are going to excel this season, and I think they're just going to kind of stay where they are. So 8th, 8th, 9th kind of level, perhaps them pushing to 7th if possible. But I just think the signing of Ben White, although very, very needed, and having that Englishman in the centre-back role to establish himself and drive forward and, be that rock at the back for Arsenal this season, I think he's really going to do that. I think it's a great signing, and I think 52 million is probably the going rate for him. I think a lot of people are saying, haha, look at that ridiculous fee for someone who's unproven. But then equally, there was some stupid fees for players like that in previous seasons that have turned out pretty darn well. And I think Ben White is one of those who's going to turn out pretty well for Arsenal. However, that's all I'm seeing positives for Arsenal. They've brought in the Lokonga, who's, from Anderlecht in the Belgium league. Is a very uninspiring signing. Nuno Tavares from Benfica at left back. They've already got Tierney at left back. Why do they need him? Maybe he can play right back and they're going to get rid of Bellerin. I don't really know. I just don't see it, unfortunately, from Arsenal this season. They're still relying on Lacazette. They're still relying on Aubameyang. They're still relying on Willian, who I think is well past it now. They look like they're getting rid of Joe Willock, which I think is a mistake. That's exactly the player that they need right now. They've not got Ødegaard back yet. I just don't see it from Arsenal this season. I think they'll probably... I've gone a very negative position for them because they're a team I very much like. I used to almost support them as a kid. I loved Thierry Henry. I loved that kind of Invincibles, Patrick Vieira, Freddie Ljungberg. Freddie Ljungberg was one of my favourite players of all time. Same with Thierry Henry, Jose Antonio Reyes, that kind of era of player just after their Invincible season and just before their Invincible season. I was a big fan of Arsenal, and I think they're going to continue to go backwards. I've been very negative. I think there's the possibility that they could go as high as 7th here. I don't think they're going to push for Europe. I equally don't think they're going to drop into the bottom half of the table. But if they don't do things now, they're going to stay in this position for a number of years to come. And the longer you stay in this position, the more you are in danger of having a bad season and ending up in the bottom half. And that would be embarrassing for such a huge, huge club. That means 8th place is going to be Leeds United, who are going to leapfrog Arsenal this season from where they finished last season. They had a great season last year. They've not really done too much in the transfer window so far. They've got a couple of players lined up, but I don't think they're going to sign anytime soon, and they're only very light, bulking sort of players. They've got Junior Firpo from Barcelona, left back with, Champions League experience, La Liga experience. I think that's a great signing for them. They've got Jack Harrison from Man City now for 11.5 million, decent signing. And they've brought in a goalkeeper, Christopher Klaassen. So yeah, I think this is really to do with the Marco Bielsa factor. I think Marcelo Bielsa factor. I think he's going to continue to be a world-class manager at a team that don't have a world-class team, and the way they play football is just so good to watch. I want them to finish in this position. I know a lot of people say, oh, we all hate Leeds scum, that kind of thing, but actually they're quite fun to watch right now. They're quite a good team to watch from a neutral perspective. I like them. They're going to finish 8th, just above Arsenal this season, probably, similar points, more goals, that kind of thing. Now, the next prediction comes with a bit of an assumption. I'm going to assume this season that Manchester City sign Harry Kane, and so my 7th place position is going to be Tottenham. The reason I'm assuming this is because Tottenham have now put down bids, and it looks like they're going to sign Lautaro Martinez from Inter Milan. Huge signing for them, really good striker. £60 million looks to be the fee. I think that's a great signing for them and a good replacement for Harry Kane. Not, he's never going to get the same number of goals and the same number of assists as Harry Kane, but he's certainly going to push for, that 15 to 20 goals per season, 5 or 6 assists. That kind of striker that's going to establish you. If Son can kick on and do as well as he was doing with Harry Kane, then they look like they're doing pretty well this season. So far, they brought in Brian Gil from Sevilla, and Lamela has gone out the other way. He can play on either side, but he's predominantly a left winger. I think he's going to be a really important player for them this season. I think that's a good signing. They've signed Christian Romero as well, the centre-back from Atalanta. Huge signing for them. He's strengthening that centre-back role after they've lost Aldo Virald, who's gone out the other way. I think they're invested in the right places. They've also brought in Galini as a backup goalkeeper for Lloris from Atlanta as well. Those two are both on loan, but I think Romero is a option to buy later on for £45 million or something along those lines. I think it's a good deal overall. 23-year-old Argentinian centre-back. If he can hit the ground running, then I think they've got a pretty good established team for the rest of the season. Well, they have missed out on his Gareth Bale. He's gone back to Real Madrid and been disgraced with the number 50 shirt, which, considering is their number 11, I don't really know what's going on there, but we won't go into the shortcomings of Real Madrid right now. But yeah, I think Tottenham are in a changeover at the moment with the new manager to bring in his own players. I think they need to sell Harry Kane mainly so they can recoup some money, send that money back out into a couple of new players to improve their team overall, do what Aston Villa are doing, who I haven't mentioned yet, by the way. Aston Villa have sold a huge player and they've reinvested it really well. I think if they can do that, if Spurs can do that, they need another centre-back, a defensive midfielder, an attacking midfielder, a striker, a right-back, a left-back, that kind of thing. I think they've done pretty well in this transfer window if they can get a few of those players in and sell Harry Kane. If they don't sell Harry Kane, I imagine they'll probably finish 6th, one above, more goals, that kind of thing. If they can do that, then I think they'll finish one place above. But I've gone with negative approach to them this season because I think Kane is going to go, and I think that Tottenham are going to finish 7th. It's a weird one, but yeah, I think that's where Tottenham are going to finish next season. 6th place now then, and this is a huge leap and bound for a team who have lost probably their best player in this transfer window. They've spent the money really well. £100 million for Jack Grealish has gone on 3 really, really good players. I think Aston Villa are going to be the team that finishes just inside the European places in 6th place this season. So yes, they've lost Jack Grealish for £100 million, but they've already reinvested that money. They've already bought Emi Buendia from Norwich. Great signing, really good, established Premier League player, also fantastic in the Championship last season. I think that's a great signing for them. He will progress them forward. Danny Ings is a goal scorer. That's what they need. Him and Ollie Watkins up front. Great pairing. Very happy with that, to see those two together. I think they'll play off each other really well. Leon Bailey as well has been rumoured to come to the Premier League for a few seasons now. I forgot he was only 23. He's only 23 and he seems like he's been playing for, 10 years now. He hasn't. He's only been playing a couple. But Leon Bailey is a really good signing for Aston Villa in that left wing position. He could also play right wing as well. Same with Buendia. They can both play on both sides. To have them, they can potentially play 4-2-4 this season with the striking and attacking options that they've got. Really good. And they've also done pretty well on the frees as well. Axel Tuanzebe on loan from Manchester United and Ashley Young as left back backup. I just think they've done some very good things. And Dean Smith, a round of applause to you, sir, because you've done very well with the money that you've got from Jack Grealish, and I think there's going to be 1 or 2 more players in. James Ward-Prowse is someone who I think will probably go to Aston Villa, and that's another reason why I've got Southampton finishing so low down the table, because I think he will go. 25 to 30 million pounds for him. Great deal. Corners, free kicks. You've got everything then. Everything that Jack Grealish was, you've bought other players that can do those things in several positions, and I think that's the best way to do this. They've invested really well. They will continue to do so, and I think they're going to get Europe this season, either finishing 6th, or I think they'll win one of the cups, the Carabao Cup or the FA Cup. I just think they've got that in their locker. Credit to Aston Villa. I'm looking forward to watching them this season. I think they're going to be good to watch. I think they're going to be a good team. 6th place. So that means the top 5 from last year are going to be the same top 5 this year, in my opinion. But there is one team who is going to have to miss out on Champions League football. And this year, I think that team is going to be Liverpool. Now, huge call here because they have got Virgil van Dijk back. They have got Joe Gomez back, so they don't have those defensive spaces that they had last season while those two were out injured. Fabinho could go back into his central defensive midfield role. He doesn't have to play centre back anymore, and they've also bought in Ibrahima Konate from Leipzig, who could also play right back, centre back. He can do both. Potential to get in the French team in the future. That kind of player. He's 22 years old. I think he's 6'4". Exactly the player that they want to bring in, but I don't see what they're doing further up the pitch, and the further up the pitch is my problem here. They've lost Gini Wijnaldum, who's a big player for them and really important for them, and they've not really got anyone to replace him in that position. That means you're looking at players that have played there before. You're looking at James Milner, you're looking at Jordan Henderson, and I think there just needs to be a little bit more in that position. If they can invest in someone who is playing in that position, then fair enough, they might do okay this season. I think Ward-Prowse would actually be a fantastic signing for Liverpool. They've not looked at him. I don't really see it happening anytime soon, but that's the kind of position that they're lacking, and they're also lacking a clinical striker. And yes, you're going to say Salah gets 30 goals a season, it's fine, we don't need one, but you can't just rely on Salah all the time. If Salah only gets 20 this year, Mane has a season like he had last year where he only got 9, Firmino barely scored at all last season. If they have that kind of season again, they're definitely going to finish outside of the top 4. I don't see them doing much better than 6th, to be totally honest, if those players continue to do that. I think it's a really tough one because Liverpool are such a big club. They've got really, really world-class players in their team. Trent, Robertson, Mane, Salah. Huge, huge, huge players. Virgil van Dijk, of course. Of course, Alisson in goal as well. They've got huge players, but I just don't see where they're going to score goals. Jota's a very good player, but is he a striker? I don't think he is. I think he's Mane's replacement or Salah's replacement when they're out injured. Shaqiri, again, very similar. He's not going to do much for them. I need them to sign a big striker, and I'm surprised they haven't done this season. Perhaps they're holding out for Haaland next season or something like that. I don't really know. It's a tough one. It's a tough one. Someone had to miss out, and from the transfers that I'm looking at and the way they played last season, they scraped and stole it from Leicester last season. I don't think they're going to do that this year. I think Leicester are going to get it. I'll go into that in just a second. But yeah, I don't see it, and I'm sorry, Liverpool fans, you're going to be quite annoyed at this. Some of you are going to predict that you'll win the league this year. Some of you are going to predict, top 3 kind of thing. I'm going to go with 5th and be conservative, and also because I want to be a little bit different as well. That comes into it a little bit. I really rate Jurgen Klopp, and I do like watching Liverpool, but 5th place, no Champions League for Liverpool this season. Now, that means that 4th place is going to be Leicester City getting Champions League football and back to where I think they're now established and belong, personally. I like the way they play. I like to watch Leicester City. Everybody loves Leicester ever since their season where they stayed up, and then the following season they won the league. Unbelievable scenes from Leicester City. Then they go all the way to the Champions League final. Great team to watch. Fun team to watch. So far, they've signed a couple of really good players. Vardy's getting on a bit now, so they've brought in Patson Daka from Salzburg. Super pacey, really good player, up and coming, only 22 years old. Really good player to watch, strong. I think he will cause problems. He's going to be a bit like their Lukaku kind of player. He's going to do really well for Leicester. I think he's going to hit the ground running. I think he'll get 20 goals. Boubakary Soumaré from Lille as well in Ligue 1. £18 million on a defensive midfielder alongside Ndidi to shore that defensive midfield up. Great signing. And Bertrand as a backup left back as well from Southampton. Weak in Southampton yet again. Seems really good. And I think they're also going to bring in Yannick Vestergaard as well from Southampton, which is pretty much the final nail in Southampton's coffin, to be totally honest, if they do that. They've lost Fofana. Huge loss to Leicester. I think replacing him with Vestergaard's a good idea. If they could do that, fair enough. He's only going to cost them 15, 20, 25 million pounds. It's not too much money. I think they're going to be fine this season. They've not lost anyone either, apart from Wes Morgan, who's retired. And of course, with them already winning the Community Shield against Man City, you can see them disrupting those big teams already. Beating City is no mean feat, even when they don't play their entire first team. They've done it again. They've beaten City. They beat Chelsea in the FA Cup final. They like to beat the big teams around them. Leicester, 4th place. Right, so into 3rd place now, and I think 3rd and 2nd are between 2 teams who, one is going to excel and do better than they did last year, and one is going to pretty much stay pretty much where they were. And so they're going to jump between the 2. I think they're both competing for the same position here. They're both challenging for 2nd. They're both going to be very close. Could finish either way round here. But the team I'm going to go for finishing in 3rd is Manchester United. Now, a lot of Man U fans will be saying, now we can get 2nd this season, now we can push for 1st this season. I don't think you're quite there yet. I think you've got a great team. I think Ole at the wheel is doing a fantastic job as manager at the moment. He's brought in the right players. He's brought in Varane. shores up that defence, perfect partner for Harry Maguire. He can also go into midfield if he's really needed. I don't think he will be. He'll probably stay in centre-back. Then they've brought in Jadon Sancho. Unbelievable signing. I really rate Jadon Sancho, always have done. I'm a big fan of Borussia Dortmund, so the fact that he's left is kind of gutting to me personally, but I think now being able to see him in the Premier League is exactly what the Premier League needs and exactly what Manchester United need. They're still lacking in a couple of positions. There's a couple of positions that I'd like to see them improve, mainly in that defensive holding midfield role. Matic, Fred, Scott McTominay, are they really the player that you want to compete for the title with at holding midfield? I don't think it is. I think they need to bring someone in. They're looking at Camavinga from Rennes, perhaps. I think that's a good signing if they can get him on while he's still quite young. Lower fee, you might think. But other teams are interested as well. Are they going to compete? I don't know. They need someone in that position, and I'd like to see them get a little bit more support in that striker position as well, because at the moment they've only really got Cavani and then perhaps Greenwood, you would say. Rashford's out for a few months. He's predominantly a left winger anyway. I think they perhaps need a new striker. Perhaps they're going to go for that next season when Erling Haaland's release clause comes up. You don't know. Something along those lines maybe. Really good signing for them if they do, but at the moment Cavani's a great striker, don't get me wrong. Cavani is a great striker. I think he's potentially going to get an injury. He's getting on a bit now. This is perhaps his last, maybe second last season. I just think they need to replace him now rather than later and have that player pushing for the first team. If that player is Mason Greenwood, fair enough. You need to get him in the team as much as possible now. He needs to be playing at least 30 minutes every single game, getting on the field, doing something, scoring goals, establishing himself in the league. It could be him, but I think they're going to finish third this season. But again, I think it's going to be a very strong season from Manchester United. I think they're going to be really hard to beat now they've brought in Varane. I think they're going to play some fun football with that Jadon Sancho partnership up with Rashford, Greenwood, and Bruno Fernandes. Bruno, of course, could go on and get the golden boot. You never know with the number of penalties he wins. Maybe. Bit harsh there. Yes, he does score normal goals as well. Yes, he does get assists. I am only joking. He's not just a penalty merchant. He does get a lot of penalties, though. He does score a lot of penalties. We'll ignore it for now. Man United in third place. And I think they're going to challenge for second. I think they're going to be pipped to second, maybe by a couple of points, maybe by a couple of goals. And we'll go on to that team now, and it is Chelsea who are going to finish in second this season. A lot of people have predicted Manchester City to win the league. I have as well. We'll go into that in just a little bit, but where I think Chelsea are going to finish this season, they're going to kick on from their Champions League win, and they're going to finish second in the league this season. I certainly think they'll be up there. They'll be up there with Manchester United, battling away for that second place position, maybe even battling for the first place if Man City don't perform in the way that we think they're going to. There's always the chance that Grealish won't hit the ground as fast as we think he's going to. There's always the issue that a few players will get injured, that they'll lose, someone like Kevin De Bruyne, someone like Gundogan, someone like Rodri, who's really important to them, really integral for that team right now. If they lose someone like that, they might not push for first place as hardly as we think they're going to. But Chelsea have brought in some really good transfers so far. Lukaku, unbelievable transfer. He's going to get goals with Mason Mount behind him, with Kai Havertz behind him, with Pulisic, who's now fit. If he can stay a full season fit Pulisic, they're going to be fine. He's a great player, fantastic player. If he can get game time, if he can end up playing 30 to 35 Premier League games this season, he will probably get the most assists, in my opinion. He's that kind of level of player. He's just so injury prone, and you need to wrap him up in cotton wool and save him for as many games as possible, Chelsea, because he's really important. Get him in. Mason Mount providing assists for Lukaku is going to be a dream. We got Kai Havertz, we got loads of players who have a lot going for them at Chelsea, and there's one player as well who was heavily criticised last season, but he's still there, and I think he's going to be important for Chelsea this year, and that is Timo Werner. He got a few goals last season. He didn't have as bad a season as he looked, but he did miss some really, really easy chances. Became a bit of a meme, became quite a funny player to watch. Timo Werner is going to be really important because you get Lukaku up front, you get him bullying and harrying defenders, putting his bulk about. He's quite fast as well, getting him behind, wearing defenders out, and then on 70 minutes you take off Lukaku, who's been bullying them all game. you bring on Timo Werner, who has so much pace. He gets in behind. He opens up defensive. If you're in a cheeky 1-1 with Leicester, a cheeky 1-1 with Man United, and you want to go and win that game, throw on Timo Werner. He'll get you the chance. He'll get you the goal. He might not score it himself. He might sweat it across 3-yard pass right in front of the goalkeeper to Mason Mount to tap in or something like that, as he has done before. But I think Chelsea have a really good player there. They're going to be fine this season. If they can get another player in, there's a couple on the cards. Jules Koundé's one of them who could really shore up the defence, and I think they probably should do if they're going to play the 3-back. If they're going to play 2-back, they probably don't need to. They've got 3 or 4 there that can play there. Christiansen's really come leaps and bounds in the last few years. You know, they've still got Azpilicueta, they've still got Rudiger, they've still got Thiago Silva, who is getting on a bit, but you know, I think they're going to be fine. Chelsea's second place for me this season, and I think it's going to be a really good season for them. So, that of course means that the winner of the Premier League, in my opinion, and pretty much everyone else's opinion this season, is going to be Manchester City. Now, one thing I am going to assume when I make this prediction is also that Harry Kane has signed for Manchester City and will do. I think he's going to play for Tottenham first game of the season. I think next week we will see whether it's going to happen or whether it's not. After the first game of the season, it might be that Harry Kane scores a hat-trick for Spurs and Spurs go, you know what, no, we can't lose him. It might be that he sits on the bench and then everyone knows that he's gone. We'll see from this weekend whether he's going or staying. I think he's going to go. I think he's going to go to Manchester City, and I really, really hope he does, mainly for England's future. Grealish, Sterling, Foden, Kane is an unbelievable attack, and then from a non-English perspective, they've also got Ferran Torres, they've also got Riyad Mahrez, they've also got Bernardo Silva, they've got loads of attacking players, incredible attack from Manchester City. They're just a great team, they're a fantastic team, and it's very hard to see the league going any other way than City's, and if they do get Kane, it's going to be 100 points. Realistically, they're going to score 4 every game. It's just going to be unfair on everyone else, which is fine. I'm fine with that. As a neutral, to watch a team who are just so good, it's got to be the greatest Premier League team ever assembled. Certainly the most expensive, even if you include inflation. I'm fine with it. I don't care. People say, they like, oh, City are buying the league. Yeah, but Man United did that in 99. Yeah, but Chelsea did that in 2005. You know, it's happened every time. It's just that now the prices have inflated so much, it looks so fantastical that now people are noticing it more. Teams have always bought the league. Every single team that has ever won the league, apart from maybe Leicester, maybe Blackburn Rovers, although they bought Alan Shearer, perhaps you could say that they bought the league as well. So I don't subscribe to this whole City are ruining football, City are buying the league. Every team are doing it. Every team are doing it. They're just doing it with a bit more than everyone else. Fair enough. Keep doing it. Buy Harry Kane. Win the league. Get 100 points. Get 100 goals. Do it. Do it. I want to see it. I want to see the best team ever assembled. I want to watch amazing football. Manchester City are going to win league. And that is going to be the end of this video. I hope you agree with me. If you don't, fair enough. Leave a comment down below. Leave a like if you enjoyed the video. And of course, subscribe. I'd love to see your predictions. I will leave a BBC link to the Predictions League. You get like a little image that you can then link in the comments below. And I can see who you think's going to win the league, who you think's going to get relegated, whether you agree or disagree with me. At the end of the day, this is my opinion. I have based it on transfers and like where they finished last year and their manager changes and things like that. I've not based it on bias. I've not gone, oh, well, I don't like Watford, so they're going to get relegated. It's not that way at all. I very much like Watford. I very much like Norwich. Yes, I've put Southampton in there. Yes, I know that one is going to be a controversial one, but a few people are predicting them to go down this year. Spencer FC's video I watched a couple of days ago, he predicted them to go down as well, and he is a West Ham fan, so it's not just me. It's not just me. It's not just because I'm a Portsmouth fan. It's because I think they've lost a number of players this season. But yeah, I hope you've enjoyed this video. Thank you very much for watching. Please check me out on Twitch, twitch.tv/the_steak_bake is my Twitch. And, you know, socials are down there as well. It's just at the_steak_bake for both Instagram and Twitter as well. Thank you very much for watching. I will see you in the next video. See you later, guys. And remember, be kind to one another. See you later.